Lieutenant Governor Husted and I are holding this very unusual press conference at this unusual time because of a hearing that occurred today. And we want to bring everyone in Ohio up to date on what the situation is, and we hope to bring some clarity to that situation. Let me go back to September 21st. Judge Phipps, common pleas judge in Franklin County, issued a temporary restraining order against me as governor of the state of Ohio and against the state of Ohio itself. That restraining order specifically prohibited me and prohibited the state from doing three things. One, creating, that's the word of the court order, creating the Department of Education and Workforce. As you'll recall, this is the new department that is taking the place of the Department of Education that was passed by the legislature. So number one, we were prohibited from creating the new department, the Department of Education and Workforce. And again, the term used by the court is creating. Number two, we were also enjoined from appointing the new head of the new department. And three, we are prohibited from transferring powers from the State Board of Education to the new department. Now, while we are contesting that decision in court, we are following those three specific things that were outlined by the court. Today, in a hearing in this same case, at the end of the hearing, which it just ended a few minutes ago, there was no change in that status quo. There was no change in that restraining order. So what's the problem? Well, it gets a little complicated if you look at it from this point on. Tonight at midnight, the old Department of Education will go away. It goes away because of the law that was passed by the General Assembly. And that old department dies at midnight. So there is certainly a potential for chaos. Questions such as who will send out the checks that go to our public schools across the state of Ohio? Who will make the determination about eligibility for school choice? And those are just two of the things that the department, in fact, does. The old department, pursuant to state law, will cease to exist at midnight tonight. A literal reading of the court's order would mean that tomorrow morning there would be no department in existence at all to exercise the normal and historic functions of the Department of Education, which oversees the school systems of the state of Ohio. This would also mean there would be no entity, as I said, to issue checks to schools or make determinations regarding eligibility for school choice scholarships and many, many other things. There would be no one to ensure students can access quality tutors, and we could just go on all the different things that the Department of Education does to help our school children. I cannot let this situation fester. I cannot let this chaos, which will ensure to start tomorrow, actually happen. I believe I have an obligation to ensure that we provide a quality public education system that meets the needs of Ohio students so they can learn, they can study, and be prepared for fulfilling careers and future success as adults. Let me talk about the essential facts. By rule of law, the new department will exist right at midnight tonight. Second, the new department has money going to that department by reason of the budget that was passed by the General Assembly. It is, I think, very, very important that we have continuity. I think it's important that our schools, over 600 school districts in the state, continue to have the support of the Department of Education. I think it's very important that the workers who work there know that they can report to work tomorrow. So as governor, I'm not going to let the situation get worse. We believe, based upon what our lawyers tell us, that the new department can in fact function. Now, I want to be very clear. We will follow, as long as the court order is on and not overruled, we will follow that court order. We will not take an active part in any way as governor in the creation of the Department of Education and Workforce. In fact, it becomes in existence at night, tonight, by operation of law, not by operation of what we've done. We will not appoint the head, much as we would like to do that, much as we know that we need to move on. There needs to be a head, but we will not do that as long as this court order is on. Finally, we will not engage in the transferring of any powers from the state board to the new department, again, as long as this specific order. But it is important that there be a department. It is important that checks go out. It's important that support be given to our teachers. It's important for our school children in the state of Ohio. And as governor, I'm not going to allow this situation to exist where we don't know where we're going because of this court ruling and children are not served. Let me now turn it over to Lieutenant Governor, and then we'll have questions.
Thank you very much, Governor. I think it's important that we realize that the governor's been put in an extremely difficult situation, and he is intervening to provide leadership. 7 individuals have filed a lawsuit. 1 judge is prohibiting him from moving forward to implementing the new Department of Education and Workforce. This is at a time when Ohio has record low unemployment rates and a record number of jobs, and we need the best possible education and workforce system we can create to fill those jobs and to create opportunity for people across this state to get the education and training they need to be successful. They have the right, those 7 individuals do, to file a lawsuit, but in order preventing the governor from moving leadership into this new Department of Education and Workforce should not be the case. We have been 105 weeks, 738 days without a permanent superintendent of the state of Ohio. Right now, we're functioning with an interim state superintendent. This state school board, including the 7 members who filed this lawsuit, have failed to provide that leadership. And this litigation should not stand in the way of Governor DeWine's ability to appoint leadership and begin to build a stronger, more robust, more accountable system of education and workforce in the state of Ohio. No order should stand in the way. We need a leader of this new agency. We need to give Governor DeWine the authority to pick that new leader because Ohio needs leadership in this space more than ever. I appreciate the governor's difficult situation that he's in, and I hope that that this court will remove the temporary restraining order that prohibits him from appointing leadership to the state's Department of Education and Workforce. But he's taking the right step in making sure that our local schools at the local level have the ability to continue to fund education, to provide lunches and bus services and the other services that these schools and students rely on. But it's time that we move our education system forward in Ohio. And this is an opportunity for the governor to do that. And I hope that the judge will ultimately remove this restraining order, allow the new agency to operate with new leadership, and then the court process can go forward to determine the constitutionality of the actions of the General Assembly. Thank you.
Let me just add, follow up on Lieutenant Governor's comments. This is just not some fight. Look, this is about our kids. We are doing something this year across the state of Ohio that we have not done before. And that is to take the science of reading into every single classroom in the state. We have seen it work. When Fran and I traveled around the state and looked at the different schools that were using the science of reading, sounding out words, the basic science that tells us how kids really, really learn how to read, that's been proven to be the best way. When we talk to the teachers and we talk to the superintendents and the principals of schools that were already doing this, they told us this is not easy. You can't just do this overnight. It takes a lot of work. And so at our request, the General Assembly provided for coaches, provided for other help and other assistance. Let me just say, we need to be about the kids' business. We need to be about the business of the kids of the state of Ohio. And this lawsuit is holding that up and slowing us down in our ability to help our own kids. And it's just absolutely wrong. Happy to take any questions.
Governor, your first question this evening is from Anna Staver at USA Today, Gannett Ohio Media Network.
Hi, Governor. I just want to make sure that I understand exactly what you're doing. So the Department of Education and Workforce will start to exist tomorrow, but the director and the deputy directors won't be in place because of the TRO, or like how far down the hierarchy is not changing?
Well, we do have an acting superintendent, Dr. Woolard. His authority comes from the state board. He will be there working tomorrow, and he will be leading the department.
Our next question comes from Noah Blundo at Hannah News Service.
I guess, thank you. How can he do that? He works for the state board of education, who loses the authority over that agency tomorrow.
There's
somebody has to sign the checks and all that stuff. I mean, yeah.
First of all, he's an accomplished leader. He's willing to lead. We need to let him lead. If someone wants to file a suit and say he can't lead, have at it. All you're doing is taking the leader away from the department that is there to help our kids. At some point, we've got to have some common sense about this situation. And what I'm trying to do is bring some common sense, what I think moms and dads, grandparents across the state would want us to do. So he's there to lead. He will lead. We have good people in the department. We ask them to come to work tomorrow, and let's move this state forward.
Our next question comes from Morgan Trow at WEWS TV in Cleveland.
Hi, Governor. Hi, Lieutenant Governor. Question about what's going on with paychecks. We talked about that a little bit, but with this, is this basically like a government shutdown? If people can't do their jobs, are they going to get paid, or are they not going to be paid?
Look, anybody that shows up, I think I can certainly speak as governor, and I will go to the legislature if there's a legal problem about them getting paid. We'll be there to do what we need to do to make sure they get paid. Look, these are essential functions of government. These are our kids, for heaven's sake. So we got a court order that's not totally clear. We're going to follow it. We're going to do what it tells us to do that we can understand, but we have to be about the people's business. We have to be about the business for our kids, and we intend to do that. And as governor, I intend to do that.
Our next question was submitted in the chat by Seth Enoch at WSYX TV in Columbus. She asks, what is the next court hearing? Hasn't been set. Any estimate of time from now for any legal updates in the case?
Yeah, you'd have to check with the Attorney General's office, who's handling this case. Of course, he is our lawyer. His lawyers are handling this.
Our next question comes from Eileen McClory at the Dayton Daily News.
Yes, thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. We've talked about this before. I mean, this has been a long process to create the new Department of Education and Workforce. What's going to happen to all that work that's already been done? Is this just a delay? Do you eventually see this happening? What do you want to see?
Well, first of all, we hope to win, and we think we will win. And when we win, then we'll be able to move on with the planning that has, in fact, taken place. A lot of the business, a lot of things that go on in the State Department of Education, they've historically done for decades. And you know, the idea that they could not continue to do those things, I think is absolutely crazy. But as far as, you know, the science of reading, which is one of the things that, you know, we think is very, very, very important. Look, we hope we get this case behind us sometime. As Lieutenant Governor pointed out, this is, you know, this injunction is not helping our kids. You know, we see this fight going on, but it's not helping our kids. We have things to do. We want every child to be able to read. We want every child to be able to live up to their God-given potential. We need to move forward.
Our next question is from Karen Kassler at Ohio Public Radio and Television.
Hi, Governor. Hi, Lieutenant Governor. I'm wondering, I know you say you expect to win and hope to win. Are there any contingency plans for what might happen if you don't win? And also, what's the practical effect of this? Are people going to notice any difference in what's happening tomorrow, though we have these two organizations now working?
Well, one, as you know, totally goes out of existence. The old goes out of existence, which creates what would appear at least to be a crisis. And so we had to look at the court order. We had to try to make some common sense decisions, comply with the specific things that the court told us to do, but it left a whole bunch of other areas unanswered. And we have to fill this vacuum, and I intend to fill this vacuum. We intend to move forward. We'll be respectful to the court, respectful to the judge, but we have kids to educate.
Governor, can I add one more thing to that? And remember, the governor has a cabinet of people who work on early childhood issues and work on higher education issues. And the idea behind this is that now there would be a cabinet director in the same room with the same reporting to the same person who would work on that whole continuum of how a child gets prepared for kindergarten, how they get educated through that K through 12 system, how that may transition to a higher education system. The big loss is the opportunity cost that we lose as a state in building a better and more complete education and workforce system and implementing many of the policies that the governor and the legislature advocated for. This just further delays the implementation and the coordination of those events by bringing leaders together who can work through and collaborate towards building a better, more accountable education system. It's the lost opportunity that is really the biggest issue here, because the governor is stepping in and filling the void by saying, hey, we're going to do business as usual. We're going to make sure that the schools have the resources they need to exist, because he's had to step in and do that. But the opportunity to build the system just continues to be put on hold, again, 738 days since this state school board hired a permanent superintendent.
Our next question is from Samantha Hendrickson at the Associated Press.
Hi, Governor. Hi, Lieutenant Governor. In the beginning, you emphasized with the court order talking about creating or the creation language. I guess what I'm a little bit confused of is, so in order for this department to now exist at midnight, arguably has to have been created. So what about what you're doing is not following that, the
Yeah.
creation language?
That's an excellent question. Because if you look at the court's language, the court uses the term create. If you look at all three of those, they are really focused at the governor and at the state. That to take, so we are interpreting that as to take, no affirmative action to impact that. But the law that was passed does go into existence. No matter what the court says, it goes into existence tonight. And so we were a little confused as well in regard to that prohibition. And we have simply interpreted it to meaning we can't take action. But by operation of law, a law passed by the General Assembly, signed by the governor, time expired, goes into effect at 12 midnight tonight by operation of law, that did in fact create this new department by law. It's a distinction.
One little thing to this that's important. In law, the Ohio Department of Education no longer exists. The Department of Education and Workforce exists. The $30 billion that is appropriated to fund schools exists in the Department of Education and Workforce, not at the Ohio Department of Education, because that's no longer in law. Without the governor stepping in and providing this leadership in light of clear guidance from the court, that's how schools are going to get funded.
Our next question is from Richard Solomon at WBNS TV in Columbus.
Governor, Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much. So under this lawsuit, it argues that it would strip away the parents and the community's voice because it would weaken the power of the board members they elect. What is your message to parents tonight to make sure that, their wants, their needs for their kids are still listened to during this process?
Well, we're going to do everything we can, as this lawsuit drags on. We don't want the children to be the victims of the lawsuit. I think what parents want is responsibility. They want someone, frankly, if they don't like what's going on in their school, they want to be able to yell at them. They want to be able to go to the school board. And they also want somebody in state government that they can go to if something from the state is not what they want. So again, the buck needs to stop with someone. And under the law passed by the General Assembly, that buck at the state level, we have local schools and school boards, but at the state level, the buck would stop with the governor.
Governor, our next question is from Megan Henry at the Ohio Capital Journal.
Hi, Governor, Attorney Governor, Lieutenant Governor. I was wondering, before the TRO was put into effect, were there finalists that you had lined up for the new cabinet level director position? And do you expect those candidates to still be available after the dust settles with the court case?
We were actively in the process of finding those people. When we got the court order, we followed the court order. We didn't like it. We don't agree with it, but we'll follow it as long as it's in effect.
Our next question is from Jim Province of the Toledo Blade.
Hey, Jim.
Thanks again for this tonight, Governor. Can you, in terms of practice, would there be any difference between the Department of Education and the Department of Education and Workforce?
Well, I think if you look at what was envisioned by the General Assembly, there certainly is a difference. There's a difference in leadership. There's a difference in who makes that decision about the leadership. I believe it's more accountable under what the General Assembly did. On the other hand, Jim, the other, vast majority of functions that will continue to be carried out under the new department, certainly. Many functions, but just to raise an example, the science of reading, it is not going to be easy for us to quickly pivot every school district in the state, every single classroom. We're going to do it, but it's a lot easier, frankly, if the person who is responsible for that is a member of the governor's cabinet, who's directly accountable to the governor. And I will just cite what the lieutenant governor, the data that he's given you, and of course but how long it's taken for this state school board, without a permanent head. I mean, this is just total lack of leadership.
Governor, we have no more reporters in the queue for a question.
Okay. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.